We just talked about how the DICOM data is stored on a CD, and wherever you find DICOM data, there must be a DICOM data processing service. SOP class, object, and a service. On a CD, we just talked about how the objects are stored on the CD. We got to have file services to move them around. So just as files are organized in folders on traditional media, DICOM files are organized as DICOM file sets. Just as each DICOM file has its own UID, a file set has its own UID. The DICOM dir is a file set file indexing everything present in the set. So, you just got good at N services and C services. It's time for the M services. There are 5 media storage services: mWrite to create new files in a file set and assign them a file ID, mRead to read existing files based on their file ID, mDelete to delete existing files based on their file ID, minquire file set to inquire about free space availability for creating new files within the file set, and minquire file to inquire about the date and time of file creation for any file within the file set. Media storage services manage files and file space. So, there are 3 file set roles. Any DICOM AE can take on any or all of these roles. So any application entity could be a file set creator. The AE uses mWrite to create the DICOM dir and 0 or more DICOM files after that. The file set reader, the AE uses mRead to access files in the file set. The FSR cannot modify the files. And file set updater, the AE uses mWrite, mRead, and mDelete. It reads files, writes files, and deletes files, but can only modify the DICOM directory. Now, the author's thoughts, if you've read the chapter on the DICOM dir, is that the DICOM dirs are practically useless, they're treacherous, and they're difficult. The DICOM standard requires a DICOM directory file to be present on any media containing DICOM data. So whether you love it or hate it, the DICOM standard says you got to have it. So, again, you have to have it. Doesn't matter whether you like it. In the author's opinion, any well-designed DICOM program should scan all the files in the given folder and identify those in DICOM format and take appropriate actions. DICOM files will either be viewed or imported, and in either case, the files have to be processed. The DICOM dir does not need to perform these functions and adds little efficiency to the process. So, those are the author's thoughts on the DICOM directory, and he's got a good point. If it's a DICOM file, you know you got to do something with it. It basically is a DICOM object. You got to move it. You don't need the directory to really find it. Just move all the objects. Treacherous. In the author's opinion, it's too easy for media owner to copy, modify, or alter the DICOM files, thereby corrupting the DICOM directory file. When another DICOM application tries to read the data based on the DICOM directory, it won't work. So, if you have a whole bunch of images and you delete 2 images in the middle of the stack, that doesn't update the DICOM directory. The DICOM directory says there's going to be 50 images, but there's only 48 because you deleted 2. Now you've wrecked the DICOM directory. So it's an easy way to break a perfectly good CD when you don't need the DICOM directory in the first place. And let me clarify that. To actually use a CD, you could use it without a DICOM directory, but again, the DICOM standard requires you to have a DICOM directory. So as much as PAX admins and the author and myself all hate the DICOM directory, you got to have it. It's a requirement. The DICOM directory needs to be updated every time a new file is written to the CD. If the media is update protected or is worm, write once, read many. Worm stands for write once, read many. Then the DICOM directory needs to be the last file recorded. Otherwise, it won't reflect any subsequent changes. In short, there's a lot of ways the DICOM directory can screw up your DICOM CD, and it provides no real benefit to the actual user. DICOM media storage regulations are constantly being updated and rewritten because they are media dependent. So there's rules for CDs, there's rules for DVDs, there's rules for flash drives now. In my opinion, the countless hours spent importing and exporting and troubleshooting issues with CDs and CD creation is one of the least rewarding aspects of being a PAX admin, and I will be thrilled when all the CDs are thrown into the bottom of a flaming pit and destroyed. So we should just end this, because once the flaming pit comes out, it's time to end this screencast. Thank you for watching.